Hello, Blitz fans of all ages. It's me, PlumCastle, here with my favorite tank to run in Gravity Force. So, what is my favorite tank to run? Well, it is a Russian tank, and it's actually one of the most well-known Russian tanks at that, the KV-2. Now, you might think it's weird to pick a tank that literally has the worst accuracy of all time in a mode where everyone's running around like crazy, but oddly enough, in my personal opinion, it is very good. Now, I will mention that another really good tank can be the ISU 152 because with the jump ability, you can get off some pretty interesting shots. However, I do think the KV2 is just a little bit more fun, and I'll explain why. So with that, let's jump right into the replays. So this first replay is on desert sands. Like I said, I'm driving the KV2, and as we load into battle, let me explain a few things that make the KV2 so interesting. Now, I know a lot of people also suggest some of the VKs or even the mouse for this mode, and those can be fun too. These are my favorite tanks to be shooting in. They do ram, oddly enough. You will see a few cases where they can ram, but it is mostly their shooting and the fact that the shots you get off sometimes. So you can see here we're now moving into position. I'm quickly moving over to the side of the map that I noticed that pretty much the entire enemy reds have been spotted up on. So one thing with the KV2, to those who don't know, it's got an insanely long reload. However, I find the reload is actually okay in this mode because everyone is being so crazy. Oftentimes they won't target you because you got a long reload, you're kind of boring to them, so they'll go for someone who's moving a little bit quicker. Also, since you don't have the jump ability, it might seem like that would be a little bit boring, but because you don't, it actually means you're often on the ground and at a much steadier pace. Therefore, you can get off your shots just a little bit more easily. Like you can see there, I got a full HE penetration on that Explorer, which was pretty funny. You can see he's just about dead thanks to that one shot I got into him. So, like I said, it's got a long reload, so part of it is just a waiting game. You can see I'm not even fixing my tracks there because there's nothing to shoot at yet. And you can see, even when you don't penetrate the HE, there are chances, there's the chance that you could get some really interesting shots off. And you're going to see some very interesting shots in these replays. So, that AMX, kudos to him. He lives forever. I don't know how he did it, but he just kind of bounced around without getting too much damage there. So, you can see here, I'm going after this KV1. That is another thing about the KV2, it will miss, and it can miss quite a bit. However, I want to say I averaged over 2,000 damage in the first 3 games I played in this tank. So, it does seem to be very solid, oddly enough, even for the mode. I mean, the mode is where everyone is literally being as crazy as they can. Now, I don't remember if I penetrate the shot. No, I don't. So, there we are, back with the waiting game. You can see somebody killed somebody, and you also notice up in the chat now they've got I finally noticed them giving credit to 2 people for giving kills finally. But anyway, back to what we were doing here. There's the KV2. There's also the gargoyle I have hunting me down, so I'm gonna, well, I thought I was gonna shoot an HE into him because that is one downside. Because you don't have the jump ability, you will get jumped over. However, that means when they land, oftentimes all their momentum gets killed, so they're actually staying still, which is what makes me like this tank so much, because I'm on the ground, I'm at a slower pace, I'm more steady, and when the enemy lands, they get stopped for just a moment, and that gives me enough time to aim. Now you can see here, it also has a little bit of ramming potential just because of the sheer speed. And wow, I had no clue I had missed so many shots this game. Still, very fun games. You can see I'm at about 1.6 thousand damage, and you can see it's looking pretty clear that we're coming out with the win. But like I was saying, you can see, watch as this gargoyle lands. He's going to land, a little bit of a lag land, but when they land, most of their momentum gets stopped, so they actually stay still, which means I can actually get some shots into them because there's nowhere for them to go, because they have to, especially if it's a slow tank, they'll have to get back up to speed. Now, Gravity Force lets you go faster, but there is still that moment where you just can't quite get them yet, or you can't quite move yet, so that makes it great for the KV2 to get a nice, at least semi-aimed shell in and just absolutely destroy them. Now you can see there I finally hit my HE shell, and it goes right into that Panzer. Unfortunately, because of his spaced armor, it didn't like fully penetrate, but still, I'll take 300 damage to no damage. So you can see here, I'm about to ram this gargoyle, and that is the capability of the KV2. Because it's so heavy, you can see I broke my track with my own HE, but because it's so heavy, it moves slightly faster because it's not mouse heavy, but it's heavy enough to kind of destroy a few tier 6s. You can see we got 2,233 damage there, top of the team. So with that, let's now move on to the next replay. So the second replay is on Yukon. Now this one was a very interesting game. Somewhere in the middle of it, I got a very interesting shot that you're definitely going to want to see. So, excuse me, again, this is a good example of what the KV2 can do. It gets some rams, it gets some damage, it totally misses shells, and then sometimes it, like, for the strangest reason on the planet, will hit. And I forgot that guy was spamming in the chat. I always love it when people say to just easy games and stuff. Anyway, back to what's happening here. I'm moving into position. The anti-gravity with your speed makes you go quite fast, still controlled, but very fast. And because of your weight, it helps you be a little bit steadier. You don't go like crazy fast, but you do definitely get that speed boost. Now that was a little bit unfortunate. You can see there's a leopard over here. He's going to try to get a few shots into me. It looks like he might have penetrated 1 or 2 shells, but he didn't do too much, thankfully. Now there's that SU-100Y. Now the SU-100Y, because it's a tank destroyer, can go up in the air like you can see there. And here comes the amazing shot. You can see there's that Rudolph, and just splash an HE in his track like that. I mean, mid-air, that was just absolutely crazy. You don't see that terribly often in normal games, and oddly enough, it seems to happen almost regularly in this mode. I mean, granted, it doesn't happen every shot, but I've had a few interesting shots in the few games I've played, so that was definitely fun to pull off. Now there's that leopard who I'm thinking was the one that was shooting me earlier. There are 2 leopards on their team, so I don't know for sure. So I get a nice, well, I don't get a nice HE shot, I get a HE shot. It didn't penetrate, but still, moving on to the next target without worrying too much about it. You can see there's a KV2 over on the enemy team, which here comes the power of ramming, just hit him for 130. I get hit for 130, funny enough, but I come into him and I just get a shot right into his turret, thus killing him. Now there's that SU-100Y again, and here is another good example of the ramming potential. You can see he's coming at me. Big mistake. Well, I guess maybe not. I did technically take more damage there, but still, very fun. And another thing I forgot to mention is with the VKs and the mouse and all that, they're higher tier, which means 1, players are better, 2, they're generally heavier, but with this, since you're in low tier, pretty much anything you touch will get massively hurt by your HE, and anything you touch can pretty much get rammed to shreds just because of your slightly high weight and everything else. And there goes that leopard now, just getting stuck on a rock and getting HE'd off the planet. But like I was saying, the cool thing is because you're in slightly lower tier, easy to HE stuff, and oftentimes a ram can be pretty devastating. So there's that Stritzwagen 74. He's running off. There's the Rudolph I had shot earlier. It looks like he just died. So there's this AMX now. Now watch what this AMX does. I mean, they could almost win here, to be honest. But he flies over like that, lands right in front of my KV2 and gets absolutely destroyed for it. So yeah, that I believe just secured the win. I mean, it probably would have been a win even so, but that was just hilarious. He just goes right in front of me and then pays the consequence, unfortunately. So there goes my friendly leopard going in, trying to get that kill. Let's see what happens here. Actually, I'm going to tell you right now, something very interesting happens here. So the leopard, I missed that shot, but the leopard goes ahead and kills him. Well, it doesn't kill him. He almost kills him. He's got 37 hit points left. The leopard decides to bounce so as to get out of there. There's the Stritzwagen. Can I get a ram? Well, yes, I get a ram, and he goes in the air, and his body is left to just float back down to the ground. I just thought that was pretty funny because that does not happen very often. So that was the second replay. You can see again 2,000 damage about and top of the team. In fact, I got more than double the person behind me, which Doesn't happen all the time, but it is pretty funny. So with that, let's move on to the third and final replay. So this final replay is on Sea of Tranquility, and this is a very short game. I just wanted to show it because, again, it just shows what the KV2 can do even when in the middle of everything, because when you're in normal battles, of course, you don't want to get overly exposed in this thing. It's got fairly low armor, and everyone is going to target you because they know of your nasty gun. So you always want to have people around. However, in this mode, everyone is goofing off so much, people hardly pay attention to you. Now, there's a Panzer over there, we've got a Wolverine and an AMX ELC. I want to HE the AMX ELC for some obvious reasons. However, the Panzer opens himself up to a colossal ram there, and he gets absolutely pulverized within the first 30 seconds of the game. So a little bit unfortunate, however, funny for the replay. So there is the Tiger over there. Now, I want to get HE into literally everything I shoot at. However, in this case, you can see I can't quite penetrate him with HE, so when he turns around, I just go to AP and then just kill him, because the AP rounds also have very high alpha. Now there's the ACIV Sentinel. Now he's gonna jump here, so I stop focusing on him. I'm looking over towards the TOG. That's what I start looking at, and then I realize he's coming down, so I load HE. There he is, aim, and gone. And just fire too. I mean, if there was no fire, he wouldn't have quite been gone, but that was pretty funny and made me chuckle there. So you can see the game is almost over, and it's only been a few seconds. But the interesting thing is, you can see I was literally in the middle of this the whole time, and hardly anyone even paid attention to me. Now, it could have just been luck, but I do think that people don't really pay attention too much to any tank. And when you're a deadly tank like this, it really works in your favor, especially since you're on the ground and not in the air. You're not as big of a target to the lights bouncing up and down. You can see there's a little bit of a ram, and this M6 is going to take out this AMX ELC. Not sure how his gun reached that far down, but hey, it did, so he finished him off. And so that is the KV2 in Gravity Force. It really fun tank to drive. I want to say these were the first 3 games I played, and you can see they were very decent. They were some fun games. Granted, not every game will be like that, but they were just fun because it was fairly easy. You got to have fun with a tank that just absolutely went everywhere. Its dispersion was bad, but somehow it did manage to hit its shells, and you can see we ended up with 2,362 damage. Again, top of the team. So with that, I hope you all enjoyed, and as always, have fun, good luck, and happy tanking.